Every year I have to kind of reteach myself how to cast a single-hander because I developed some bad habits after a season of casting a two-handed rod for steelhead. The first thing that I have to train myself to do, or retrain myself, is to make sure that the rod is traveling back in a straight line. With a two-handed rod, we have a tendency to kind of, set our D-loop by making the sweeping motion and coming to this casting position. With a single-handed rod, we must go straight back and straight forward. Unless we're using a Belgian style cast, which is a really popular and it's a very effective way to cast. But for most casts, most fly casting with a single hander, we want to cast straight back and straight forward, ensuring that the rod tip's traveling in a straight path and that the power application is building to a stop at the back and building to a stop at the front. And the only way you can maximize that energy transfer is to make sure that you're traveling in a straight path going back. So try this at home. Take the butt of your rod, just the butt of the single-handed rod, stand in front of the mirror and make a fly cast. And check to see if you're not possibly hooking right here. And I'll bet you are if you've been casting a two-hander all winter. The drill to fix that is to watch yourself in the mirror a number of times. Just go through your casting motion. If you are hooking it, you're going to realize that what you need to do is keep the rod from about here back kind of pushed out. It feels awkward to make it go straight. You actually kind of need to push it out a little bit, and you possibly have to poke to the sky a little bit to keep the rod traveling in a straight line, because we kind of have a tendency to dip back here and get a little lazy, right? I do it. I've been doing it for all my life, so I have to be conscious about the fact that I need to raise that hand slightly and keep everything out. The other thing that I do is I tend to get a little lazy when I am making the back cast, because with a two-handed rod, we are lazy. We just kind of set the D-loop, wait for everything to line up, and then come forward. But when you make that transition to a single-handed rod, you are putting the energy into the back cast, and what happens in the back cast translates to what happens in the forward cast. In fact, I spend more time worried about my back cast than I do the forward cast. If the back cast has a nice tight loop and there's a lot of energy in it, and you come forward at the right moment with a straight rod path, the forward cast is going to look like the back cast. So spend time shaping that back cast and shaping your forward cast, incorporating a straight line, with the rod path, and then also a power application that builds to a stop. Build to a stop, build to a stop, build to a stop. Those two things are really going to help the shape of your loop, but also the efficiency of casting your fly line at a great distance. And then the third thing that I kind of forget to do, because I don't have to do it with a two-handed rod, is to focus on when I'm hauling on my forward cast. Tim Rajeff is one of the best distance casters in the world. And I took a lesson from him, and he emphasized a couple things, but one of the most important things to make sure that you're building to a stop at the end is to delay that haul until the very last possible moment. And when you are hauling, think about hauling by throwing that line behind you. When you're coming forward at the very last second, throw that line behind you, because what that does is it delays the energy that you're transferring to the cast to the last possible moment, and that's when the rod is fully loaded and it has the most stored energy, is right at the end, just before you come forward. So that energy is then transferred to the fly line, and your loop stays a loop farther out, and the line has the potential to actually unfurl all the way and land on the water flat. If you haul too soon or put too much energy too soon, it's just like swinging too hard with a driver on the golf range. It doesn't work. The fly line goes out and just kind of lands in a pile of spaghetti. So those three things are things that I concentrate on when I'm making that transition from a two-handed rod to a single-handed rod. The first thing, making sure that I'm making a straight line move with my casting hand back and forward. Two is that I'm making sure that I'm really conscious about setting that back cast, building to a stop, because after a season of fishing two-handers, I have a tendency to get kind of lazy right here. And then the third thing, because I don't have to haul with a two-hander, is to make sure that when I have the single-hander in my hand, that I wait to the last possible second to throw that haul back behind me. Not straight down, but actually wait and then throw that behind me. That does something that you can't do if you're hauling straight down, and that is it puts your whole body into the cast and you get a lot more distance that way.